It's midnight. You're tired. You tell yourself you'll just check out this new game for 20 minutes. 3 hours later, you're still playing. You're wondering where the time went. You're wondering why you do this to yourself. These 19 games are the worst offenders. Not because they're bad, because they're so good that starting them late at night is basically signing up for zero sleep. Once you're in, you're not getting out. Alright, here are 19 PlayStation games you absolutely should not start after midnight. Hitman 2 is a sandbox assassination game where every level is a puzzle with dozens of solutions. Figuring them out becomes addictive fast. You're dropping into massive maps, Miami racetracks, Mumbai slums, Colombian villages. You have a target and complete freedom to improvise. Poison drinks, rig accidents, disguise yourself as staff, or just shoot your way through if subtlety isn't working. Each location has hidden routes and alternate methods that reveal themselves the more you replay. The trap is the instant restart. You finish a mission, you see all the things you missed, you immediately jump back in to try a different approach. There's always another disguise to find, another elimination method to discover. Miami alone has dozens of ways to take out your targets. Chasing silent assassin ratings on every level turns into genuine obsession. What makes this dangerous after midnight is how the one more attempt mentality kicks in. You're constantly chasing cleaner runs, faster times, and more creative solutions. Before you know it, the sun's coming up. No Man's Sky is a space exploration game with procedurally generated planets. The scale of it makes time disappear completely. You're hopping between solar systems, landing on planets with their own ecosystems, their own weather, their own resources. One planet is toxic wasteland, the next is frozen tundra, another has oceans and floating islands. You're mining materials, upgrading your ship, building bases, chasing better equipment in a loop that genuinely never ends. There's always another system to visit, another ship to buy, another base component to unlock. Freighters let you command fleets. You can spend hours just cataloging alien species or hunting for the perfect multi-tool. The game keeps expanding your possibilities the longer you play. What makes this dangerous is how seamlessly you move between activities. You land for quick resources. You spot something interesting on the horizon. You investigate. You lose 3 hours without noticing. The transitions are so smooth that stopping points simply don't exist. Factorio is a factory building game about automation. It's one of the most dangerously addictive games ever made. You crash land on an alien planet and start building. Mining by hand becomes automated miners. Handcrafting becomes assembly lines. Small bases become sprawling industrial complexes with conveyor belts moving resources between hundreds of machines. The goal is launching a rocket, but the real goal becomes optimizing production chains until they run perfectly. The complexity scales infinitely. You're managing power grids, defending against alien attacks, designing train networks to move materials across your factory. Every problem has multiple solutions. Every bottleneck can be fixed by redesigning systems. The community calls it Cracktorio for a reason. The one more thing loop is relentless. You fix one production issue, you notice another. You spend 2 hours redesigning an entire section. You realize the sun is coming up. Hours vanish into factory optimization without any awareness of time passing. Subnautica is an underwater survival game where you're stranded on an ocean planet. Exploration becomes hypnotic. You start in shallow reefs gathering fish and materials. Then you find caves, then deeper biomes with stranger creatures. The game keeps pulling you down, literally and mentally. Each new depth tier reveals weirder ecosystems, bigger predators, fragments of story explaining what happened here. Base building lets you create underwater habitats with observation decks and growing stations. Vehicle crafting gives you subs that reach crushing depths. Every upgrade expands where you can explore. Every new area makes you want to push further into the darkness. The sound design sells the isolation. Your oxygen meter ticks down. Leviathans roar in the distance. Diving at night with limited visibility creates tension that makes every trip feel consequential. What traps you is the constant discovery. You find a wreck, you scan the technology inside, you unlock new blueprints, you build new equipment, you reach new areas. The loop feeds itself endlessly. Stopping feels like abandoning progress. XCOM 2 is a tactical strategy game about managing resistance fighters against an alien occupation. Every mission demands one more turn. You're commanding squads through procedural maps, positioning soldiers, managing abilities, dealing with percentage-based shots that sometimes betray you spectacularly. Permadeath means soldiers you spent hours leveling up can die to bad luck or bad decisions. The tension is constant because mistakes are permanent. The strategy layer between missions adds another hook. You're managing resources, researching tech, building facilities, scanning for missions on a global map. Time pressure forces tough choices. Skip this mission to finish research or deploy now and risk falling behind. Character customization makes you care about soldiers who will probably die horribly. You name them, you customize their appearance, you watch them level up, then you watch them get killed by a critical hit from across the map. What makes this brutal after midnight is how missions chain together. You finish one, soldiers are wounded, you need to deploy backup squads. New missions appear, you tell yourself just one more. Suddenly, it's 4 in the morning and you've lost half your roster. Quick question, which game on this list has cost you the most sleep? Drop it in the comments. All right, let's keep going. Stellaris is a space grand strategy game about building interstellar empires. Time evaporates in 100-year jumps. You're guiding a species from their first FTL flight through galactic domination. Exploration reveals anomalies, primitive civilizations, fallen empires, cosmic horrors. Diplomacy lets you form federations or vassalize neighbors. War involves fleet compositions, choke point defense, planetary invasions across dozens of star systems. The pace is what traps you. Early game is exploration and expansion. Mid-game introduces crises and awakened empires. Late game brings catastrophes that threaten the entire galaxy. You're always approaching the next milestone. Another tech tier, another megastructure, another federation vote. The game runs in real time with pause, so you control the pacing, which makes just a few more years incredibly easy to justify. Those years become decades, then centuries. Then you've guided an empire through 500 years of history and the sun is rising outside your window. Crusader Kings III is a medieval dynasty simulator where you're playing lineages instead of nations. The emergent stories become obsessive. You're not managing a kingdom, you're managing a family trying to hold power across generations. Marriages are strategic alliances, heirs can be incompetent, vassals scheme against you, your character dies and you continue as their child, inheriting their successes, their failures, their enemies. The drama is what hooks you. You arrange a marriage to secure an alliance, the heir turns out brilliant, then dies in a hunting accident at 20. Your backup heir is cruel and rivals hate them. You spend decades repairing relationships, then a faction rebellion forces you to give up territory. Every playthrough generates unique catastrophes and triumphs. You can play honorably or scheme constantly, reform religions, create custom kingdoms. The game rewards creativity and punishes complacency in ways that make every ruler's reign feel distinct. The one more generation mentality is dangerous. You want to see how your heir handles things, then their heir. Then you've played through 10 rulers and 6 hours vanished without you noticing a single transition. Mount & Blade 2 Bannerlord is a medieval sandbox where you build armies and conquer kingdoms. The freedom makes stopping nearly impossible. You start as nobody, mercenary, trader, bandit, whatever you choose. Recruit companions, build a warband, take contracts from lords, raid villages, besiege castles. The combat is directional melee and archery where skill matters more than stats. Leading 200 soldiers into battle against 300 enemies and winning through tactics feels incredible. The kingdom management adds depth. You can stay a mercenary forever, or join a faction, or create your own kingdom and recruit lords to your cause. Sieges involve building equipment and storming walls. Field battles become massive cavalry charges and shield walls colliding. What traps you is how seamlessly activities connect. You finish a battle, you loot the battlefield. You sell goods in town. You recruit more troops. You accept another contract. Hours pass between moments where you even consider stopping. By then, you're already committed to the next siege. Yakuza 0 is a crime drama about Tokyo gangsters in the 1980s. The mix of serious storytelling and absurd side content creates whiplash that keeps you playing. You're alternating between Kiryu and Majima, both caught in conspiracies involving empty lots and Yakuza politics. The main story is genuinely compelling. Betrayals, honor codes, violence with consequences. Then you take a break and end up managing a cabaret club, winning street races, or fighting a guy in a diaper who's stealing people's underwear. The side content is what extends sessions. Pocket Circuit Racing has full storylines. Real estate management becomes a tycoon game. Karaoke songs are fully playable. Disco dancing has rhythm mechanics. You can spend hours never touching the main plot. Combat is satisfying brawling with multiple styles. Heat actions are context finishers that never get old. Boss fights are intense one-on-ones with health bars and dramatic cinematics. What makes this dangerous is how easily you detour. You're heading to a story mission, you pass a restaurant, you eat for stat boosts, you talk to someone, you start a sub-story. 2 hours later, you're teaching dominoes to a fake TV producer and you've forgotten why you opened the game. Nioh 2 is a Souls-like set in feudal Japan with yokai demons. The build variety plus mission structure creates endless experimentation. You're fighting through Sengoku period Japan using multiple weapon types with completely different movesets. Switchglaive plays nothing like dual swords. Odachi handles opposite to Kusarigama. Each weapon has skill trees, stances that change combo options, abilities that define entire playstyles. The mission structure invites constant replays. Levels are discrete missions you can tackle in any order. You're chasing better loot drops because the gear system means perfect rolls are genuinely rare. The difference between good gear and great gear is substantial. Co-op makes everything more approachable. Summoning help for tough bosses or running through levels with friends changes the experience entirely. It adds reasons to replay content you've already cleared. What traps you is the build experimentation. You respec, you try a new weapon, you spend 3 hours learning its combos, you want to test it against bosses. Suddenly, you've run 10 missions and it's 3 in the morning and you're theory crafting your next build. Monster Hunter World Iceborne is about hunting giant monsters for materials to craft better gear to hunt bigger monsters. The loop is perfectly tuned addiction. You're tracking creatures across ecosystems, learning their patterns, breaking body parts for rare drops, carving materials, forging new weapons and armor. Every hunt takes 15 to 30 minutes. Each weapon type plays completely differently. Greatsword is slow, calculated hits. Dual Blades is relentless aggression. Hunting Horn buffs your team while dealing damage. The Gathering Hub makes multiplayer seamless. You post a quest, hunters join, you tackle monsters as a team. Coordinating status effects, breaking parts, mounting monsters. Group hunts feel cooperative in ways most games don't achieve. What makes this dangerous is how hunts chain. You need one more material for an upgrade. You hunt the monster, you get everything except that one gem. You hunt again, still don't get it. You hunt again, now you have enough materials for 3 different armor sets and you're comparing defense values at 5 in the morning. Death Stranding is Kojima's walking simulator about reconnecting a fractured America. The meditative gameplay becomes trance-like. You're delivering packages across post-apocalyptic terrain while avoiding ghosts and terrorists. The walking mechanics are deeper than they sound. Balance management, route planning, terrain navigation. You're building roads, placing ladders and ropes that other players can use, seeing their structures appear in your world. The story is dense, Kojima chaos, 5-hour cutscenes, celebrity cameos, metaphors about connection, but the moment-to-moment gameplay is what hooks you. Planning the perfect route, stacking cargo efficiently, delivering supplies to remote stations. Completing deliveries earns likes, unlocks gear, expands the network. What traps you is the rhythm. You're moving through environments with low roar playing. Deliveries stack up. You tell yourself one more run. Hours pass in focused silence. The meditative quality makes time disappear in ways more action-focused games can't replicate. Disco Elysium is a detective RPG with zero combat, where conversations and internal thoughts are the entire game. The writing makes closing it feel impossible. You're a cop who woke up with total amnesia investigating a murder in a decaying city. But the real investigation is into yourself. Your own brain argues with you. Ancient reptilian brain wants base impulses satisfied. Inland empire makes surreal connections. Electrochemistry craves substances. Every dialogue check is a dice roll that can fail spectacularly or succeed unexpectedly. The political depth is rare in games. You can lean communist, fascist, centrist, or ignore politics entirely. The game explores each ideology seriously without lectures. Side conversations go deeper than most games' main plots. A discussion about a destroyed statue becomes a meditation on art and loss. The cases, plural. The murder branches into multiple investigations. They don't hold your hand. You're finding clues, following leads that go nowhere, making connections the game doesn't spell out. What makes this dangerous after midnight is how text-heavy it is. You're reading everything because the writing is legitimately excellent. Each conversation reveals more layers. Suddenly, you spent 4 hours talking to people in a single city district without progressing the main case at all. Final Fantasy XIV is an MMO with hundreds of hours of story content. The just one more quest mentality is reinforced by every system in the game. You're playing through a JRPG story that keeps expanding. A Realm Reborn is the setup. Heaven's Ward is political fantasy. Shadowbringers is existential crisis. Each expansion is a full game's worth of content. The main story is mandatory to progress, which means you're locked into a narrative that keeps delivering. The side content is endless. Extreme trials for hard boss fights. Crafting and gathering are entire gameplay systems with their own progression. Player housing, glamour collecting, card games. You can spend months ignoring combat entirely and still have goals. The social systems create hooks beyond gameplay. Free companies are guilds with shared housing. The community is unusually friendly for an MMO, which makes group content more appealing than it has any right to be. What traps you is how activities flow together. You're doing story quests, you unlock a new dungeon, you queue for it, you run it with a group, someone mentions a cool mount, you look up how to get it, you start a quest chain. 4 hours gone and you haven't touched the main story you logged in to complete. Alright, before we hit the top 3, have any of these already destroyed your sleep schedule? Let me know in the comments. Let's finish this. Pathfinder Wrath of the Righteous is a massive isometric RPG where a single playthrough takes 100+ hours. The build complexity makes restarting tempting constantly. You're leading a crusade against demons, pouring from a literal wound in reality. The party-based combat uses Pathfinder rules, meaning absurd death, multi-classing, prestige classes, feats, spell combinations, mythic paths that give you angelic powers or turn you into a lich. Character building is a game by itself. The choices matter structurally. Mythic paths change the story significantly. Angel path is heroic. Demon path is chaotic violence. Lich path lets you kill companions and raise them as undead servants. The main plot branches based on decisions made across 5 acts. Companion quests are full storylines. Romances have depth and consequences. You can play lawful good paladin or a chaotic evil demon lord, and the game accommodates both completely. What makes this brutal is the length combined with complexity. You're 40 hours in, you realize your build isn't optimal. You consider restarting with better knowledge. You actually restart. Suddenly, you're 80 hours into 2 playthroughs and neither is finished. Trails to Reverie is a JRPG that assumes you've played 6 previous games in the series. The interconnected storytelling makes binging inevitable. You're controlling 3 protagonists whose stories intersect. Reen from Cold Steel, Lloyd from Crossbell, a masked figure called C. The game jumps between perspectives. Previous characters return. Plot threads from earlier games get resolved. If you're invested in the series, every revelation hits because you've spent 300+ hours with these people. The combat is turn-based tactical, but combat isn't why you're still playing at 3 in the morning. It's the conversations. Characters talk constantly. NPCs have full dialogue trees that update after every story beat. The world feels lived in because everyone has something to say about everything. The structure encourages long sessions. Chapters are lengthy story segments that don't have clean stopping points. You're always approaching the next revelation, the next character reunion, the next twist that recontextualizes earlier games in the series. What makes this dangerous is how it rewards series knowledge. References to games you played years ago pay off here. Character arcs that started 3 games back conclude. If you're a Trails fan, stopping feels like walking out of a movie 20 minutes before the ending. Persona 5 Royal is a 120-hour JRPG that eats entire weekends without trying. The calendar system creates constant forward momentum. You're living two lives, high school student by day, phantom thief by night. Time is limited. Every day you choose between improving social stats, building relationships, exploring dungeons, or doing side activities. The pressure to optimize your schedule is real because missing deadlines means game over. The calendar structure is what traps you. You're always approaching deadlines. Palaces must be completed before specific dates. Exams are scheduled. Building relationships unlocks abilities that make combat easier. You plan your weeks, but then new activities appear. Friends invite you places. You're constantly adjusting priorities. The presentation is relentless style. Menus pulse with energy. Battle transitions snap with precision. Last Surprise plays during ambushes and refuses to leave your head for months. Every UI element looks like it belongs in a fashion magazine. What makes this brutal is how time moves in the game. Days pass quickly. You're always managing limited resources. Time, money, social links. The just one more day mentality kicks in because you want to see how your choices play out. Those days turn into weeks, turn into you've played for 6 hours straight. Baldur's Gate 3 is a massive RPG where a single playthrough takes 80+ hours. Every decision branches in ways that make replaying impossible to resist. You're infected with Mind Flayer parasites exploring the Sword Coast with companions who have their own goals. They can leave or betray you based on your choices. Character builds are incredibly deep thanks to D&D rules. Multi-classing creates wild combinations. Every fight can be solved multiple ways: stealth, diplomacy, shoving enemies off cliffs, environmental hazards. The reactivity is what extends sessions. You make a choice in Act 1, it affects dialogue in Act 3. You ignore a side quest, a companion mentions it later. You romance someone, it changes how other characters treat you. The game remembers everything, which makes exploration rewarding and thoroughness feel necessary. Co-op adds another layer. 4 players, each controlling different party members, creates chaos and comedy. Everyone's making choices simultaneously, which leads to arguments about optimal builds and whether to commit war crimes for better loot. What traps you is the scope. You're always discovering new areas, new quests, new interactions. Resting triggers camp conversations. Long rests progress companion stories. You tell yourself you'll play to the next rest, then the next, then suddenly dawn is breaking and you're still in the Underdark. Elden Ring is FOSM's open-world Souls game. The combination of exploration freedom plus one more attempt boss mentality destroys sleep schedules completely. You're exploring a massive interconnected world where every direction hides something. Ruins with mini-bosses, catacombs with gear, legacy dungeons with full boss gauntlets. The openness changes the Souls formula fundamentally. Stuck on a boss? Leave. Come back later with better gear, more levels, new strategies. The game never forces confrontation, which paradoxically makes you want to conquer everything. Build variety is absurd. Pure strength, dex builds, magic, faith, bleed builds, frost builds, hybrid combinations. Respeccing is accessible enough that experimentation is encouraged. Every weapon has unique skills that completely change how it plays. Co-op and PvP add social layers. Summoning help makes hard fights manageable. Invading other worlds adds competition. Messages and bloodstains from other players make the world feel populated despite being single-player focused. What makes this the #1 sleep killer is how it combines everything. Exploration pulls you forward. Boss attempts create one more try loops. Build experimentation makes you want to test new strategy. And that's 19. Some will cost you a night. Some will cost you a week. All of them are worth it even if your sleep schedule isn't. Which game on this list has kept you up the longest? Drop a comment. I want to know if I'm the only one who's played Crusader Kings until 6 in the morning on a work night. If this list is about to ruin your sleep schedule, hit subscribe so you know what else to avoid. And if you've already fallen victim to any of these, hit like so I know I'm not alone. See you in the comments. Try to get some sleep.